of Kenya, we say thank you and karibuni. I just want to thank all of you partners and stakeholders for participating. We don't take it for granted because it takes a joint effort for all of us to come together looking at leadership at all levels, increasing accountability in terms of what it is that we are doing for the AIDS response. Before we started this session, I was watching a video done by Joe Murioki, who's been living for 36 years with HIV. And I just want to first of all acknowledge the pioneers of the HIV treatment and prevention approach, because by speaking up about the HIV status in the early years, that's how we were able to get the president of Kenya then, Daniel Arap Moi, to acknowledge that we had a problem and for us to be able to begin to put the first AIDS in Kenya and the first prevention modules in place. So Dr. Joe Murioki, Dorothy Lenya, Wangeshi, and all those who have gone before us, I just want to acknowledge and to thank you. Your treatment call is actually a prevention call. And I want to quote the words of the actor leader in South Africa who kept saying, without treatment, you cannot talk about prevention. So I just want to say thank you from the beginning. I also want to acknowledge the numerous speakers who have contributed to this important meeting. There are those I listened to yesterday at length, and there are those who spoke clearly before me and even today. And I want to acknowledge the words of CAS Dr. Mwagangi, and I also want to echo the words of other women that I enjoy who spoke yesterday. And I mentioned CAS Mwagangi, Madam Anne Githuku Shongwe of the UNAIDS Regional Director, Professor Sylvia Ojo, Professor Ruth Ndwati, both esteemed researchers and trailblazers, and our very own NAC leader, Dr. Ruth Masha. You all spoke so powerfully yesterday and left me inspired, and I took away the following. From the CAS, you asked us to capture the gaps and reflect them in the recommendations for the report we shall share with the Minister of Health. From Anne, you said every new infection is a proxy indicator for inequalities in this country. For Dr. Ndwati, you spoke powerfully of the effect of adverse childhood events and the effects on adult behavior, including HIV, NCDs, and depression. You also made a statement that left me challenged, and I paraphrase. Sex work cannot be the only option a woman or a young girl has. And you said, connecting sex as work is slavery all over again. I agree fully, and I hear you. Professor Joe, you also talked about why mental health is a must and why it must be part of our treatment algorithms. And I confirm, Prof, you have an ally right here on the mental health conversation. This is the next frontier. And as echoed by our president when he came for World AIDS Day, it is up to us to make sure that children are safe and for us to change that narrative. And so, based on the leadership of our president, I am lending my voice, both socially and my political power, to this cause. Dr. Masha shared how we must make sure that girls have options that don't create a cycle of poverty or put them at risk for HIV. And the story of Nekesa touched me deeply, so that the rescuer is not then becoming the abuser. With this sharing, it is crystal clear that we must also retain a multi-sectoral approach to leverage the development synergy for HIV prevention. HIV prevention will require the scale-up of existing impactful strategies and new modalities to deliver programming where needed. All this must be done while respecting the human right to the highest attainable standard of health as enshrined in our Constitution. Most people who know me have been in the HIV response for the last 22 years, and you all know that I come from a human rights perspective. And for my brothers and my sisters who are dealing with issues around harassment and intimidation because of their orientation or even the work that they are doing, I just want you to know that you have an ally in us at the National AIDS Control Council. Our goal is to make sure that we stem the tide of new HIV infections and we make sure that treatment is available globally. And so I want you to know that ours is to deliver service, ours is to create partnerships, and ours is to make sure that no Kenyan is born with HIV and nobody has to die because they're HIV positive. Therefore, for us to deliver on this, we require continued collaboration across all levels of government and all sectors so that we each bring our comparative advantage to the table. We must acknowledge the unique role played by various networks and community-based organizations and ensure inclusivity in the response. Before we came to this session, I listened in on the session that was moderated by Wangari, and she talked with the issues around policy reforms. We also had the Muslim leader on the panel, and I just want to say thank you to all the participants and the partners who have done this. HIV prevention programs at work must adopt a community and person-centered approach. that recognizes our contribution in the design and implementation of programs. And so even as Wangari was speaking, I noticed that she asked questions which are pertinent to us having a successful prevention conversation. What else can we be able to do to make sure that everyone is at the table? And I want to mention that this summit has come at an opportune time to bring together key players and stakeholders from both national and county governments, the public and the private sector, development partners and communities to review the progress made, identify the gaps and areas of learning from successful strategies towards revitalizing HIV prevention in Kenya. We know that there are things that have worked globally. There is no need for us to recreate what we can learn from others. But also, it's also to acknowledge that Kenya is unique and prevention strategies that have worked for others do not necessarily work for us. So we must be able to create homegrown solutions that take care of us as well. So the ideas and the knowledge have been shared during this summit, and we know that we have a better understanding because you all sat around the table, and we also have clarity on what our role and the role of the various partners is. As a NAC, we hear and acknowledge the clear recommendation to fast-track HIV prevention in Kenya. We are committed to work with all stakeholders to ensure that we lead the country towards ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. This ambitious goal will only be realized when we strengthen our leadership and accountability mechanisms. So how do we strengthen those accountability mechanisms? It is therefore against this background that the National AIDS Control Council today launches the National HIV Prevention Coalition that will bring all stakeholders together to galvanize our leadership, commitment, and accountability to meet the HIV prevention targets. So out of this summit, if we have done nothing else, the launch of this coalition is actually an important one because it spurs us to continue working together. NAC is leading this coalition as a multi-sectoral partner, and the coalition will draw its membership from state and non-state actors, including community-led organizations. A prevention scorecard will be developed to review progress and ensure we do not lose sight of the prevention goals. Please do not get left behind because your voice and your presence is important to us, and each person sitting here and listening to me is important. The law may have told you you're not important. Gender rules may have told you you're not important. You may have been told you're not important even by the place where you go and worship. But I want to tell you, as a leader in this country, as a chair of the National AIDS Control Council, and also as a person who understands exclusion, your voice is important. And if there is no seat at the table, we are creating a seat and make sure that you take that seat. So as I conclude, I call for your renewed commitment towards the HIV prevention agenda in Kenya. Let us promote prevention interventions for innovation, creativity, and a culture of evidence-based programming that acknowledges the role of the programs and communities as we work towards zero new HIV infections by 2030. For those who know me all the time through, even before World AIDS Day, our issue is not looking at opinions, but it's looking at evidence. What does the evidence say? And we know that evidence points that inclusivity is the way to go. Evidence points that criminalizing HIV does not bring any results. And evidence also shows that STD is just a disease like any other. And so one of the things I want to challenge is the shame narrative we have in Kenya around when people are sick. That's not a narrative that we want to take forward. So regardless of whatever it is, that whether you're dealing with drugs, whether you're doing sex work, come to the table so that we can find a solution. Ours is not to judge, ours is to provide service. And so as I conclude, I thank all those across the world that took the time to join the summit, even at very odd hours, forfeiting sleep and other conveniences. The government of Kenya, led by our Minister of Health, NAC partners and stakeholders, and my own NAC team for a job well done. Thank you for doing a good job. To my CEO, Dr. Ruth Masha, thank you for your leadership, your passion, and your untiring drive to bring communities to the center of this conversation. I am inspired by your search for solutions and your faith in all our partners. I have also seen you listen to people of advanced opinions and bring everybody to the table. And today, I want to make a rallying call to the communities of people living with HIV. Prevention does not negate treatment. I have been in this conversation for so long that I know that it's important for all of us to work together. So I'm calling Nelson Otuama, and all the people who are leading NEFAC across the different counties. Please come to the table so that we work together and make sure that the prevention conversation is successful, because you away from that table means that we are not successful. And I value your leadership, I value your opinions, I value your presence, and I know that the road you have walked is important for us to listen. So please do not step away from the prevention conversation, because prevention only works when treatment is working. And so now allow me to wish you, even as we break for Christmas and we pray for our prosperous year of 2022, first, that you become cognizant of the news that is developing around Omicron. I think most of you have got the text today that we have had new cases of Omicron in Kenya. And these are people who are currently in quarantine. But it also means that once we get that information, it's just a short time before it begins to get into the community. So please do not slacken on COVID prevention and mitigation measures. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, take care of the older people, and most of all, protect the people at home. And how do we do this? One, we are not saying that you don't visit them, but you can wash your hands, you can mask, because again, keeping away from older people during Christmas can also be a time where the mental health issues become a challenge. So we are not saying don't visit parents, we are saying know your status even as you go and visit, and then use a mask and take care of yourself. And so as I now move to declare this summit officially closed, I pray for a prosperous and Merry Christmas for everybody, for good holidays, and I pray that 2022 for all of you across the world will be a time that we'll be able to breathe, and also that the fact that we will find solutions for COVID, so that at least even in terms of livelihoods, we can be able to manage what is in the future. I know people with HIV have struggled a lot with livelihoods in these last 2 years. We are cognizant of that, and that is why the partners across the table are also picking that as a key vulnerability for women and children. So I want to thank all of you, and to say that even as you now break and begin the Christmas holiday officially, thank you for participating in this summit, and now may I declare it officially closed. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much. That is a closing remark from the chairperson, National AIDS Control Council, who has been able to summarize for us why we are here, but also most importantly, send a message that the council, which is actually mandated to mobilize resources, ensure that we supervise implementation, coordinate partners, ensure we have sectoral programs that are working, ensure the country has one a monitoring system and information system, is actually at the top of HIV prevention. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and we shall continue through your leadership to ensure that we are not only talking about just prevention, but making sure prevention conversation continues amongst all of us, and it's everyone's business. I take this opportunity to thank all of us. Allow me now to request that Pastor Anisia Karanja to come and give us a prayer so that you can send us home. But from my side, I want to wish each one and every one of you a really Merry Christmas. I also want us not to forget that it's during the Christmas period that a lot of things happen. I want us not to forget the young people that are now going to take a Christmas break and that are now in the hands of parents, and most of us here could be parents. And even if you're not a parent, you're an auntie, you're an uncle, these children require our guidance. Let's not come back after Christmas to speak about ills that have happened, but to speak about what you have done well for the children. So Merry Christmas, and we don't meet again. Happy New Year. We'll continue airing these sessions on our online platforms, and especially during the Christmas period, we'll continue educating as many people as possible and reaching out to many Kenyans. Asanteni sana. Dr. Professor Anisia Karanja, karibu sana.
Praise God. Bwana asifiwe. I'm very happy to see you, and I'm very proud of you for giving us